Well, it's Thursday, and you all know what that means. However, as you probably know, on the last episode, I screwed up. Basically, I forgot about WWE Evolve. But, however, to make it up to all of you, I'm decided to put it on this one instead. So, hopefully, next week, it'll be better. But, however, as you probably know, New Japan Pro Wrestling has concluded with the New Japan Cup. The real question is who will walk out as this year's winners? Will it be Shota Umino or will it be, of course, David Finlay? That's going to be a very tough question. As you all know, we entered the aftermath or the fallout of TNA. As you probably can guess, new battle lines have been drawn up for some upcoming matches. However, as you can guess, we have some interesting things taking place for next week. So we'll be talking about that. And then finally, Ring of Honor features many matches, including the main event. The ROH World Television titles on the line. Commander defends his championship against Dark Panther. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And of course, we cap up, as always, our news update. So we're only going to focus on upcoming matches. So buckle up. So let's get ready for another episode of the Lead It Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Lead It Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling views from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions have been said. I believe it's time to get this show on the road. So let's begin, of course, with WWE Evolved. Okay, WWE Evolved. Now, we open up with ladies action. We have Brinley Reese taking on Mason Holiday. Now, many of you have seen Brinley Reese on two occasions, either on NXT or NXT Level Up. But it's great to see her again. She did make an appearance in last week's Evolved, talking about her upcoming match, chilling out with, of course, Kendall Gray and Carly Bright. But however, she has to go through Mason Holiday. Don't know much about her, but I'm not saying it was a bad match or a good match. I mean, it was okay. But this match ended with Brinley Reese applying a cutter. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, we did see an interview with Peter talking to Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Ewig. As you know, they are trying to make a name of themselves as a very much stable tag team as possible to prove that they are the top of the food chain. But of course, there are other teams out there, such as, of course, right now in the next match, featuring the Gallows Boys, consistent of Joe and his brother Mark Coffey, of course, the Coffey brothers. I don't know where Wolfgang was, but they face Jordan Oasis and Sam Holloway. Now, much of this match, I have noticed how Sam Holloway was trying to, of course, take control of the match, like trying to tell Jordan to follow his lead or just do what I say, that sort of thing. It was more like, like Jordan Oasis was trying to prove his own way, but of course, things like that falls apart. But of course, Wolfgang gets involved in some capacity, but it was Joe Coffey that took out Oasis with the KO, and just like that, it was called off. Um, well, it was called out like it was like a total knockout. Oasis wouldn't get up, but it didn't went to straight to the Gallus boys. So that's how it ended. Next match we have Layla Diggs. Some of you may have seen her both on the NXT Level Up before. She faces against Chantel Monroe. Not much about her. Now, of course, in the back of my head, because Kayla Diggs, to me, I've seen her before. I don't know about Chantel Monroe, but excuse me. Sorry. So anyway, I wasn't too sure how this was gonna go, but somehow um, Layla was planning to do a sunset flip, but it was countered with the pancake by Monroe, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she picked up her first win. Now, of course, Callie Armstrong is determined to prove a point. Like, apparently, she went ballistics after losing a tag match with Danny Palmer, so she has to face against Hayes Jamison. But you probably can guess this match ended with Callie Armstrong winning. She did like this thing where she was running back and forth with the pounce, like throwing a bit of a speed into a pounce, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, last week we saw what happened between Kaylee Ray and Zara Zacher. Now, Kaylee Ray is still trying to understand what the hell is going on with Wendy Chu. Like, why is she sending her this little letter? Of course, Carly had to talk to Peter about this, and she's saying that she doesn't get it either. But she was trying to make a case. Look, I don't have time for this crap. My focus is on challenging anybody who gets in my way. That's what my focus. But of course, Wendy Chu's theme plays around. Zara Zacher tried to calm her down, like trying to tell her, "Look, I know you're worried, but we still don't know what's the intention about Wendy Chu's towards Kaylee Ray. I'm not sure if she's trying to tell her, oh, you can't be all cheerful all the time or whatever, because we remember how Wendy Chu used to be. Now, our next match, we have Draco Knox and Tate Wilder taking on Tyson DuPont and Tariq Igwe. The match, I kind of figured it was going to go in favor of DuPont and Igwe when they applied their usual tag team onto, of course. But however, we did see a side swipe right, which consisted of Ricky Smokes and Brad Taylor, and they were being accompanied with Zeta Steel. We don't know what's the purpose of their presence, but I'm sure they're trying to say to DuPont and Igwe, oh, hell no, you're not taking the tag team spot here. So I think that was the craziest thing. But however, this match ended with a double team by DuPont and Igwe to Knox, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, we did see in the VIP section Ora Mensa making an appearance. We don't know what's going to happen. But let's move on to our last main event, which is, of course, Luca Crucifino taking on Javier Bernal. I have to say, Javier Bernal tried everything as possible to prove his point. But Luca Crucifino, as a member of the D'Angelo family, well, he was the one who walked away unscathed when he applied the case close onto him. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So, but however, it seems that Luca Crucifino is now being targeted by Keanu Carver and I forgot the guy's name. It's Lewis, I think. So basically, now Luca Crucifino is being targeted due to association with the D'Angelo family. So we'll see how that rolls up next week. But as of right now, we are done with WWE Evolve. Let's move on with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the conclusion of the New Japan Cup. So that match will take place at the main event. So we'll get to that. Now, our opening match, we have the New Japan World television title. El Fantasmo defends his belt against El Capitan from the United Empire. TJP, who's being accompanied by the Great Moron. Yeah, him. So anyway, you probably ask yourselves, can TJP brings back this belt to the United Empire? We know that Jeff Cobb has held it before, but El Fantasmo showed a lot of conviction no matter what. But however, he was able to apply a crucifix in order to retain the belt, and just like that, it was over. Now, during the post match, he was trying to show respect to TJP, but for whatever reason, Great Khan attacked him. You know, this is what I don't like about Great Khan. Great Khan thinks that he's Mr. Perfect. He thinks that he speaks the reality. No, he's just a moron, in my opinion. And of course, it was obvious that he was going to challenge for uh, the television title because he has a win over El Fantasmo from the New Japan Cup. So we'll see how that rolls up. Now, our next match we have Satoshi Kojima versus the Ace and El Presidente of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hiroshi Tanahashi. So it's obvious that we have two veteran wrestlers, and very soon we know that Tanahashi will be retiring by the start of 2026. But it's a pretty interesting match. I mean, these two guys been around the wrestling business for who knows how long. But the real question, who's going to walk out? I mean, we know that Kojima, he's a very strong powerhouse wrestler, but Tanahashi, well, we've seen him, all the things he can do. But it only took a high five flow to put him down, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now our next our next match, we have the Bullet Club, Chase Owens, Balak Fale, and Sanada taking on just four guys, Taka Michinoku, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura. Now, of course, you know the tensions between, of course, the just four guys and Sanada. Sanada betrayed them last year, and now it's like things are not going exactly like they would have hoped for. But this match ended with Chase Owens applying a package power driver on Taka Michinoku. But however, of course, Yuya Uemura wants to get even with Sanada for what he did. But of course, Sanada was attempting to whack Uemura with the guitar. But all of a sudden, Huntai showed up. Of course, El Desperado, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Yoshihashi, Tomohiro Ishii. So basically, this is what Tanahashi told Taichi, that they need them. He told, we need, of course, just four guys, not the three of you. We want Doiki involved too. So you probably can guess that maybe Taichi is starting to see, maybe Tanahashi is right. If they really value us, it may be better. And of course, it's interesting to see Taichi and El Desperado seeing each other again. As you all know, those two were in fact part of Suzuki-gun. But of course, you know how Tomohiro Ishii, he's not the kind of guy who's been more sentimental. He speaks his words in the ring. So we'll see how that rolls up. Now, our next match, we have the United Empire, consistent, of course, Jacob Austin Young, Cal Newman, and Jeff Cobb, taking on LIJ's Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Tetsuya Naito. Now, of course, it's no secret about how things are turning up with, of course, Cal Newman and Jeff Cobb. They have their sights set for the IWGP tag team belts, which Hiromu and Naito currently have. But it was Hiromu who picked up the win when he applied the figure four onto Jacob Austin Young, and just like that, he had to tap out. However, during the post-match, it seems now that they're giving exactly what Jeff Cobb and Cal Newman want. If they want a shot of the IWGP tag team belts, well, they got it. So we'll be seeing that very soon. Our next match, we have the Bullet Club War Dogs, consisting of Taiji Shimori, Drilla Maloney, and Gabe Kidd, taking on, of course, the House of Losers. The House of Torture, actually. But I like to call them the House of Losers because they can't even do their jobs right. So it's consistent of Sho, Yujiro Takahashi, and Ren Narita. Now, of course, we all know the history of what's been going on. The House of Torture are running their big fat mouth, are saying that the War Dogs are out of the Bullet Club. Well, we all know that's a little BS coming from them. But it was Drilla Maloney who sent the message back to them when Sho ended up, of course, on the Drilla Killer. Well, I hope Sho keeps his mouth shut once and for all. But at the end, of course, it seems now Drilla Maloney are saying that, the House of Torture makes them laugh because they think that they're not Bullet Club. Well, it appears now they're aiming for, because here's the thing. When David Finlay took over, of course, Bullet Club, he did mention that either you win gold or put people in body bags. Well, we all know that the Bullet Club War Dogs have been doing that exactly. So now they're aiming for the never openweight 6-man tag team belts. Now I wouldn't be surprised as the cowards that House of Torture are. Yes, they're cowards. They're not gonna put the belts on the line. But I know Tanahashi. He's gonna probably give that to them because he can't even stand the House of Torture regardless, or the War Dogs, but it's better than just see nothing happen. Now our next match, we have the other members of the House of Torture, Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Evil, taking on Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji. Of course, we all know that this match is going between Evil and Tsuji because Evil is claiming that Tsuji is not the future of New Japan. But, however, he is when he took out Kanemaru with the Gene Blaster, and just like that, it was over. But of course, Evil, always with his smug look, he gets the last laugh. Well, sooner or later, of course, Tsuji's gonna get the last laugh. But we'll see where that goes. Our next match, we have TMDK, Hartley Jackson, Rohit Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. taking on El Desperado, Bolton Oleg, and our current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Hiroki Goto. I thought this match was pretty good, especially when, of course, Goto is trying to prove that this is the Goto Revolution, and that's exactly what he's been doing. So he picked up the win when he applied the GTR on Jackson, and then just like that, 1, 2, 3. It was over. Now for our main event, the New Japan Cup Finals, Shota Umino and versus David Finlay. We all were surprised that Shota Umino made it this far. But however, one thing I did mention on a few episodes, that I had the distinct feeling that Evil was going to show up. Well, he did not. But I wouldn't pass Evil that he's capable of doing more than just interfering in David Finlay's business. But Shota Umino showed a lot of resilience. Like, he was not willing to give up no matter what David Finlay was applying. But unfortunately, it didn't go any further until David Finlay applied the overkill, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But of course, David Finlay, for some odd reason, he just gave him a tap on the chest, like telling him good job. But of course, Shota Umino, he feels disappointed how things are is. But however, Finlay, it's not the first time, of course, that he has come across Goto. If you guys remember, Hiroki Goto did challenge him for the IWGP Global title last year and failed right in front of his kids. And of course, Finlay has no problem doing the same thing again. Now, I highly doubt that David Finlay is going to win this belt sooner, because I'm sure, like I said, I have that distinct feeling Evil's going to get involved in some way, try to prove a point. But we'll see what that leads. But that match will take place sooner, I think, in early April, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, so we'll see where that leads us from there. But as of right now, we are finished with New Japan. Let's move on with TNA. TNA, as you all know, we are now in the fallout after Sacrifice. So what's the next? So what is next from here? Well, Masha Slamovich, as you know, retained her championship against Cora Jade. However, Tessa Blanchard, as you all know, she is determined to reclaim what rightfully belongs to her. But all of a sudden, another NXT crossover. That's right. Jay Jane made the crossover, and just like that, we saw a beatdown. But of course, the director of Authority, Santino Marella, decided, that because she showed up, she's giving her an opportunity to have a match against Masha next week actually. But he did mention that, of course, Tessa Blanchard is banned from ringside. So we'll see how that turn out. But however, Santino was not too pleased with the idea that Jay Jane showed up. So he went to talk to the liaison between NXT and TNA, Ariana Grace. Well, Ariana claimed that she had no idea that she was coming. She did mention that I was expecting what we were expecting later on in the night. So it seems that Jay Jane was not part of the plan. So who knows what the real thing is. But Ariana Grace assured Santino that she's going to get to the bottom of it. Now, our next match, we have the Northern Armory, mostly Judas Icarus and Travis Williams taking on the Rascals. Now, of course, the Rascals, as you know, had a great successful six-man tag match with, of course, Ace Austin against Wesley, DuPont, and Igwe. So the real question is, where did the Rascals go for him? Well, this is put to themselves to the test again against another Armory. But of course, as always, great teamwork with the Rascals when they put away Williams, and just like that, it was over. But however, Eric Young was not going to take this kindly. He was intending, of course, to give them a beatdown. But Ace Austin, who proved that he has the back of both Miguel and um, Zach. So basically, he stepped up. I mean, I would love to see Ace Austin and Chris Bay team up with the Rascal, form like a somewhat of a super unit. I mean, what do you guys think? Would you like to see that? I definitely would. Now, Gia Miller wanted to have a little chat with Zaya Brookside after what happened a week ago. Of course, the real question is, how is her eyes after being green missed by Rosemary? Well, she said that she's okay, but I think the real question that goes around is the chain. Like, she doesn't know what got into her. Like, she's like appalled to herself, questioning, I would never go that far, but something overtook me. And then, of course, Rosemary popped up in the television screen, getting once again into her head. But yes. Now, we do have, of course, the first class with their show, the Penthouse, and we had a surprise visitor, and that is, of course, as you know, TNA was in El Paso, Texas. You guys know what that means. That is Eddie Guerrero country. So his nephew, Chavo Guerrero Jr., made an appearance, and then someone who appears like, oh, I'm not getting attention enough, decided to roll the party. We're talking about Frankie Kazarian. And then, of course, Octagon Jr. and Laredo Kid showed up. So there is going to be next week a Lucha Libre style match. Chavo and the Aztec Warriors, Laredo Kid and Octagon Jr. take on First Class and Frankie Kazarian. So that's next week. Now, Mustafa Ali versus Mike Santana. Now, as you know, this whole thing happened because Mustafa Ali, who's trying to say he is the leader of TNA, that he's going to lead TNA in the future, cannot stand a guy like Mike Santana going out his way because of his drinking habit. However, he gets a rematch, and the cabinet were in fact banned from ringside. Now, you would think that Mike Santana would have got a retribution for what happened in Sacrifice. However, Mustafa Ali ran like a coward and received a countout. And I'm sure this is not a satisfying match for Mike Santana. Gia Miller even tried to talk to him, saying, why did you run? Mustafa Ali being a hypocrite, saying that he did not run, but he did stated that he is done with Mike Santana. Well, I hate to burst your bubbles, Mustafa. You don't know Mike Santana like you think you know. He's not going to let that slide. I wouldn't be surprised if the great hands, or should I say the loser hands, get themselves handed to them. So if I was Mustafa Ali, don't pretend that it's over. It will never be over until Mike Santana is satisfied. Now, we saw what happened at the end of Sacrifice, with Nick and his brother Ryan Meneth attacking Matt Hardy. And of course, as you know, they were trying to explain themselves, but Leon Slater, who actually grew up watching the Hardys, was not going to take that kindly. So he had a lot of balls to stand up against both men, but it was just way, way, way too much for him. So it ended with him being laid down on the ground. Now, our next match, we have Rosemary teaming up with Savannah Evans, taking on Zaya Brookside, and she teams up with Li Ying Lee. As you all know, she had dealt with Savannah Evans before. So you probably can guess this is a bit of payback for Lee to get her hands on Evans. But however, this match took a very interesting turn. Rosemary once again was attempting to do the green mist on Brookside, but she missed by hitting Evans with it, and luckily it was Li Yingling who took out Evans, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now, as you all know, the blondies, Ash and Heather Elegance won the TNA Knockouts title, along with the little Chihuahua who decided to celebrate. Well, their celebration was cut when the appearance of the Meta Girls, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, who are now making their presence known, to come for the tag belts. And then, of course, Spitfire also decided to appear. And then finally, Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley. And of course, this was like ruining the moment. Like, Ash by Elegance tried to prove her point, Like, she just wanted her wish, and all of a sudden it didn't happen. So it turned to a brawl. So now we're going to see a bit of a four-way for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team belts. So we'll see what their leads. As for a main event, we have The System, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, as you probably can guess. They take on Elijah and Joe Hendry. This is a bit of a redemption, the right, the wrong, what happened at the steel cage. But of course, we all know whatever these two guys are at, Alicia was there to help. But luckily, it was Joe Hendry who picked up the win when he applied a standing ovation onto Brian Myers, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Joe Hendry and Elijah won the match. So we'll see what happens next week. So as of right now, we are officially done with TNA. Let's move on with our last and final review, Ring of Honor. Okay, our final review, Ring of Honor. We opened up with six-man tag team match, Lucha Libre style. We have Volador Jr. and Rugido, and of course Hechicero taking on Neon, Fuego, and of course El Príncipe de Plata, Místico. Yep. So you can guess this was going to be a good opener. I mean, who doesn't love Lucha Libre? I mean, I know I did because I grew up watching it. So you probably can guess there was going to be a lot of high flying spots. But this match ended, of course, with Místico with La Mística onto, who was it? Onto Rugido. And of course, Rugido had no choice but to tap. Next up, we have Viva Van taking on La Catalina. Now, of course, one thing that was surprising, and I have to say that from what I think either Coleman Caprice or Caprice Coleman or Ian Riccaboni, that not too long ago, Viva Van and La Catalina teamed up in CML before. And now they're on the opposite side. So the real question is who's going to walk out as the victor. Now, some of you may think, okay, Viva Van will have the opportunity. But no, it was Catalina who's a much bigger star than you would imagine. It was Catalina with a body scissors, and just like that, it was over. Next up, we got LFI's Dralistico and Beast Mortals taking on Gabriel Eros and Eli Thesis. Of course, you know how LFI is. These guys like to beat people up. That's always been their game. So they were able to pick up the win by Dralistico when he applied a face buster onto Thesis, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, we have Kevin Knight versus AR Fox. Oh my goodness, this match was insane. I wasn't too sure how this one was going to go, but this one had like a bit of an implication for the ROH World Television title, who was going to challenge, of course, Commander. It was a very, very tough thing, but however, I never witnessed a draw before, and this was the first time it happened after 20 minutes. And of course, Coleman actually said he did not keep track of time, and I don't blame him, but that's how it is. Now, our next match, we have Satman Singh taking on Sid Ellington. Well, you probably can guess that this match was over just like that with a choke slam, so not too bothered about that. Next up, we have Aaron Solo and that idiot QT Marshall taking on Top Flight. Of course, we're going to see some bit of shenanigans from QT as always. But Top Flight, doing as what they do, try to overcome every obstacle, were able to overcome the top, thanks to Darius applying a submission onto Solo. And of course, Solo had no choice but to tap. Now, before our main event, the Outrunners decided to show up with a bull of a mascot or something like that from Omaha, Nebraska. And then, of course, the infantry once again decided to get in the people's noses. But the Outrunners took out, of course, the trash. And just like that, they had a bit of fun. And they did the, you son of a, that thingy, the meme. So it kind of worked. Now, our next match, our main event, is the ROH World Television title. Dark Panther, getting his hands on this belt, faces off against Commander. You know there's going to be some interesting moments, high flying moments between these two competitors. But the real question is, can Commander overcome it, or will Dark Panther finally step out of the shadow, as you know, being the, of course, not the black sheep of the family, but the one who is stuck in the middle, you know. But unfortunately, Commander walked out as the victor once again when he applied the springboard shooting, uh, um, the running shooting star press on the top of the rope, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So the real question: who will be next to challenge Commander? That's going to be a very, very tough question. So we'll see what happens down the road. But as of right now, we are done with all the reviews. Let's move on with news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin with, as always, but to let you guys know, we have no developments whatsoever on this particular part of the episode. So let's begin with GCW as always. Now, on the 6th of April, they will be in Philadelphia for Philly Special. The GCW World title will be defended. Uh, Effie will defend his belt against the biggest a-hole on the planet, Tony Deppen. And then, of course, on the Las Vegas shows, we do have on the Bloodsport 17, I believe, um, Jonathan Gresham makes his return, so that's going to be great. And then the following day in Las Vegas, we have the rematch at the Joey Janela Spring Break 9 on the 18th of April. Mance Warner once again will go head to head against, of course, Gabe Kidd. And then the following month in May for Crazy, Scary, Spooky, Hilarious in LA on the 8th of May, the GCW tag team belts will be defended. The Garbage Daddies, Alec Price and Cole Raddick, will defend their belts against Subculture, Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews. And then, of course, we have the two back-to-back shows in Atlantic City in June. Tournament of Survival. As you know, 5 competitors have been named. A 6th one has been named. I don't know who this guy is. Daiju Wakamatsu is now entry number 6. And of course, on the following day, on the 8th of June in Atlantic City, we have the Cage of Survival. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Now, they did announce, of course, later on the end of this month, we have the Reality of Wrestling Glory. A match has been announced. As you probably know, we do have the WWE ID prospect. So this is going to be a showcase based on that. We have Brad Taylor and Ricky Smokes, better known as Swipe Right. They take on Marcus Mathers and Aaron Rourke. Now, of course, as you all know, we do have the WWE ID Championship that will take place on a 2-day event in Las Vegas during WrestleMania week. One of them has been announced for the GCW event on the 16th of April in Las Vegas. The first round match, we have Zeta Steel versus Kylie Ray. Now, the Seattle-based promotion DEFY, with their latest new, will be also participating at Las Vegas on the 17th, has announced for being part of the collective. They announced a 6-man tag match. We have C4, Cody Chun and Guillermo Rosas, teaming up with the man, the myth, the legend from Lucha Libre, Negro Casas, while they challenge, of course, Bollywood boys, Harv and Gurv Singh. They team up with Galeno de Mal. And then, of course, House of Glory upcoming event on the 25th of April, we have Saint and Sinner, Travis Williams and Jukarus Icarus. And then finally, New Japan Pro Wrestling returns back to Osaka for Dominion at the Osaka Joe Hall. So more announcements will be made about that as soon as we get closer and closer. But for now, we are officially done with everything. So let's just call it a day. All right, so I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up for our next one, I'm considering maybe just doing just the Yoshi wrestling stuff, because there have been some events that I missed out. The Marvelous, the recent Stardom show, and of course Sendai Girls. So we got those coming up. So I might leave the next episode mostly to Yoshi. I was considering doing the WXW 3-day show of the 16 karat. I may consider that doing that possibly on Sunday. So we'll see how that will roll out. But as of right now, that's the plan. I want to get those Yoshi events out of the way. So we'll see what happens down the road. But as of right now, we are officially done. And until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.